Morning class, we're going to go over 4.2, proving triangles are congruent by side, 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 or side, angle, side. So yesterday we went through and said if all the parts are congruent, then the whole thing's congruent. Well, what we're going to go over the next couple days is we don't actually need to know everything, every single part's congruent to conclude that the whole triangle is congruent. We just need to know three things in these cases. So today we're going to prove two triangles are congruent using side, side, side if we know three sides are congruent, or side, angle, side. Two sides and the angle that makes up those, the vertex point or vertex angle of those two sides are congruent. So we'll go through here. First one, side, side, side is just as it said. If all the sides are congruent, then the triangles are congruent. So that's the first one we're going to go through, and then we're going to prove. We're going to go through a proof of this. So here's an example. H is the midpoint. So what does midpoint mean? Midpoint means it's in the middle. If something's in the middle, what can we conclude? That each part is equal to one another. So H is the midpoint of G to K, so that means this part and this part is equal to one another. So we're given H and F are congruent, or HF is congruent to HJ, and JF, FG is congruent to JK. We want to prove that these triangles, this triangle here is congruent to this triangle. So first thing we're going to do in our proof is we're going to write what's given. So prove that that these two triangles are congruent. So start with HF and A is equal to HJ. Write that down. Okay? So H is the midpoint. How do I know H is the midpoint? Okay? How do I know that GH and KH are equal to one another? All right? How do I know that this? So here's all the stuff we want to prove. Okay? So let's go ahead through. So H is the midpoint. How do I know that H is the midpoint? See that word? It's given to us. Then, how do I know then that GH is equal to KH? How do I know that GH is equal to HK? If it's the midpoint, it breaks it into two equal parts. So that's a definition of a midpoint, is to break it into two equal parts. How do I know that HF and HJ are congruent? And how do I know FG and JK are congruent? Well, it's given to us. So now I know that this side and this side are congruent, this side and this side are congruent, and this side and this side are congruent. So I know three sides are congruent. So how can I conclude that the triangle is congruent? By side, side, side. So anytime we go through a proof, this is the proof I want you to go through, a two-column proof. Give your reason, or give your statement, and then your reason. All right, so let's go ahead and prove. How can I prove that these two triangles are congruent? All right, we'll start out with what's given to us. So we want to say AB is equal to CB, AD is equal to CD. How do I know that this is true? Well, that's given to us. Next, how do I know that BD, this side right here, is equal to this side here? So if we think about it, there's two triangles, they share a common side with BD. Well, how do I know? BD is equal to BD. What property is that? Then we go ahead and lastly state, therefore, triangle ABD is equal to triangle CBD. Understand, our first step is always going to be what's given to us. Our last step is going to be what we prove. So we go through here. This is given to us. How do I know BD is equal to BD? What property is that? That's the reflexive property, or common side. Then, how do I know that triangle ABD is equal to CBD? Well, if I know I have 1, 2, and now 3 sides, so it would be side, side, side. Next postulate that we're given is side, angle, side. This side, or the angle that's included, is between our two sides. It makes it up. So it has to be where these two sides that are congruent meet. So it would be our vertex. It can't be like side, side, and then opposite. All right, there's another proof along that, but that's not what we're going through. So side, angle, side. Two sides and the included angle. So I come through here. So we want to prove, can you conclude that the following information is enough? Well, let's go ahead and look at our proof. So we have side, side. We have two sides are given. to us. So we need it, if we're going to use side, side, we could use a third side. Do I know that this third side is congruent to this third side? Well, there's nothing given to us. What about, what type of angles are these? These are vertical angles, so I could say that these two angles are congruent. Now, is this angle right here the included angle of these two sides? No. So, there's not enough information for us to conclude that these two triangles are congruent by what we've gone, so by side, 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 or side, angle, side. So let's go ahead, we change it up just a little bit. Now we're having this side equal this side, EB is equal to CB, and then we have AB is equal to DB. So we go through here. So we want to, is there enough information? Now again, look, we have vertical angles. So now if you read it, you have a side, you have an angle, you have a side that's congruent. So we go through, again, state what's given to us. Then we have an angle. This angle ABE is congruent to DBC. Why? Vertical angles. Then we go through and, so again, first step is what's given to us. Last step is what we're trying to prove. So how do I know that those sides are equal? It's given. How do I know that this angle here is congruent to this angle? Because it's vertical. And so now I have a side, angle, side. So how do I know the triangles are congruent? By side, angle, side. So that's our lesson for today. 2 ways that we can prove that triangles are congruent. Side, 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 or side, angle, side.